Marcus Thompson wiped down the last table at Rosie's diner, his shoulders aching from another 12-hour shift. The clock on the wall showed 11:30 p.m., and the familiar weight of exhaustion settled over him like a heavy blanket. At 32, he looked older than his years, with calloused hands and worry lines that came from juggling 2 jobs and raising his 8-year-old daughter Emma alone. The diner was nearly empty now, just him and the night cook cleaning up. Through the large windows, he could see the rain beginning to fall, creating small rivers on the glass. Marcus knew he should hurry home to relieve Mrs. Garcia, his elderly neighbor who watched Emma when he worked the late shift. But something made him pause when he noticed the woman sitting alone in the corner booth. She had been there for over 3 hours, nursing the same cup of coffee and staring out the window. Her expensive business suit stood out among the diner's worn vinyl seats and chipped formica tables. Everything about her screamed money and success, from her perfectly styled blonde hair to her designer handbag sitting untouched beside her. Yet there was something deeply sad about the way she sat there, so still and quiet. Marcus had served hundreds of customers over the past 2 years since he started working at Rosie's. He could usually read people pretty well. The truckers wanting quick service and strong coffee, the late-night workers grabbing a bite before heading home, the occasional drunk looking for somewhere warm to sit. But this woman was different. She seemed lost, like she had nowhere else to go. When he first approached her table around 8 p.m., she had ordered just coffee and a slice of apple pie. She spoke softly, with perfect manners, and left a $20 tip on a $7 bill. Most people would have taken the hint and left her alone after that, but Marcus had noticed she barely touched the pie, just moved it around her plate while staring into the distance. As a single father, Marcus understood loneliness. After his wife Sarah died in a car accident 3 years ago, he had experienced nights when the silence in his apartment felt suffocating. Even with Emma sleeping in the next room, sometimes the emptiness was overwhelming. He recognized that same hollow look in the woman's eyes. "More coffee?" he asked gently, approaching her table with the pot. She looked up, and he noticed her eyes were red-rimmed, though she wasn't crying. "Thank you," she said quietly, sliding her cup forward. Her voice carried a slight tremor, like she was fighting to keep control. "Kitchen's about to close, but I could get you something else if you're hungry," Marcus offered. He wasn't supposed to take orders this late, but something about her made him want to help. She shook her head. "The coffee's fine. I should probably go anyway." But she made no move to leave, instead wrapping her hands around the warm cup like it was an anchor. Marcus hesitated, then sat down across from her. It went against every rule of customer service, but his instincts told him this woman needed someone to acknowledge she existed. "Rough night?" A bitter laugh escaped her lips. "Rough year, actually." She studied his face as if deciding whether she could trust him. "Sorry, I don't usually dump my problems on strangers." "Sometimes strangers are easier to talk to," Marcus said simply. "No judgment, no history." Her name was Victoria Sterling, she told him. CEO of Sterling Industries, a company her father had built from nothing before passing it down to her 5 years ago. On paper, her life looked perfect. Corner office, expensive apartment, success that most people only dreamed of. But tonight, after another board meeting where she felt completely alone despite being surrounded by people, she had driven aimlessly until she ended up here. "I fired my assistant today," Victoria said, staring into her coffee. "She was stealing from the company. Small amounts, but still. I trusted her for 3 years and she was stealing from me." Her voice cracked slightly. "I don't understand how people can be so cruel." Marcus nodded, understanding more than she knew. After Sarah's death, several people he had considered friends disappeared from his life. Some couldn't handle being around his grief. Others made promises to help that they never kept. It taught him that loneliness often came not from being alone, but from being surrounded by people who didn't really care. People can be disappointing, he agreed. But not everyone is like that. Victoria looked at him curiously. "You don't even know me. Why are you being kind to a complete stranger?" Marcus shrugged. My daughter always says kindness doesn't cost anything. Kids see things pretty simply sometimes. He glanced at the clock and realized how late it was getting. I should let you finish your coffee. I need to get home to her. How old is she? Victoria asked. And for the first time that evening, her voice held genuine interest. 8. Emma's her name. She's the best thing in my life. Pride filled Marcus's voice whenever he talked about his daughter. She's probably asleep by now, but she likes me to check on her when I get home. Victoria smiled, and it transformed her entire face. She's lucky to have a father who cares so much. As Marcus stood to continue closing duties, Victoria pulled out her wallet. What do I owe you for listening? Coffee and conversation are both on the house tonight, Marcus said firmly. Sometimes we all need someone to sit with us. Victoria left another generous tip anyway, gathering her purse and coat. At the door, she turned back. Thank you, Marcus, I mean that. After she left, Marcus finished cleaning and locked up the diner. During the drive home through the empty streets, he found himself thinking about the sad woman in the expensive suit. He wondered if she had anyone waiting for her at home, or if she was going back to an empty apartment as quiet as his own sometimes felt. When he arrived home, Mrs. Garcia was dozed in his recliner, a romance novel open on her lap. He woke her gently and thanked her for staying so late. After she left, Marcus checked on Emma, who was sleeping peacefully surrounded by her stuffed animals. Looking at his daughter's peaceful face, he felt grateful for what he had, even if money was always tight and the future felt uncertain. As he got ready for bed, Marcus couldn't shake the image of Victoria sitting alone in that booth. Tomorrow was another day, another shift at the diner. He wondered if their paths would cross again, though he doubted it. People from different worlds rarely met twice by chance. Still, something told him this wouldn't be the last time he thought about the lonely woman who tipped too much and needed someone to listen. Victoria Sterling sat in her Mercedes in the parking lot of Sterling Industries, staring up at the glass building that bore her family's name. It was 6 a.m., 2 hours before anyone else would arrive, but she couldn't bring herself to go inside. The conversation with the kind waiter from the night before kept replaying in her mind. Marcus, his name was. She couldn't remember the last time someone had shown her genuine kindness without wanting something in return. Her phone buzzed with messages from her secretary, board members, and business partners. Each notification felt like another weight, pressing down on her chest. The world expected Victoria Sterling to be strong, decisive, and completely in control. But sitting there in the early morning light, she felt like a fraud wearing an expensive mask. The betrayal by her assistant had shaken her more than she wanted to admit. Jennifer had worked closely with her for 3 years, handling personal matters and confidential information. Finding out about the embezzlement felt like discovering a family member had been lying to her face every single day. It made Victoria question her judgment about everyone in her life. She thought about Marcus's daughter, Emma, the way his whole face had lit up when he talked about her. Victoria had never experienced that kind of unconditional love. Her own father had loved her, but it was always tied to expectations and achievements. Love was something earned through success, not given freely. By evening, Victoria found herself driving toward the same part of town, where Rosie's diner sat like a beacon in the darkness. She told herself she was just hungry and wanted comfort, food. But deep down, she knew she was hoping to find that same sense of peace she had felt the night before, when a stranger had treated her like a human being instead of a business opportunity. The parking lot had more cars tonight. Through the windows, she could see families eating dinner, couples sharing dessert, and a few solo diners reading newspapers. It looked warm and welcoming, so different from the cold restaurants she usually frequented for business meetings. Marcus was behind the counter when she walked in, filling salt shakers while chatting with an elderly man at the counter. When he looked up and saw her, surprise flickered across his face, followed by something that might have been pleasure. "Back again?" he said with a smile, grabbing a menu. "The coffee was good," Victoria replied, feeling oddly nervous. In boardrooms, she commanded respect and attention, but here she felt uncertain, like a teenager on a first date. Marcus led her to the same corner booth where she had sat the night before. Coffee to start? Please. And maybe I'll actually eat something tonight. As Marcus poured her coffee, Victoria studied his face. In the brighter light, she could see he was younger than she had first thought, probably early 30s. His brown eyes were kind but tired, and there was a wedding ring tan line on his finger that spoke of recent loss. She wondered about his story, about the wife who was no longer there and how he managed raising a daughter alone. What do you recommend, she asked, opening the menu. Depends what you're in the mood for. The meatloaf is Emma's favorite when I bring her here on Sundays. Says it tastes like what a grandmother would make even though she never met hers. There was a wistfulness in his voice that made Victoria's chest tight. You bring her here often? Once a week, usually Sunday dinner. It's our tradition. She orders chocolate chip pancakes even though it's dinner time, and I pretend to be shocked every single time. Marcus chuckled, and the sound was warm and genuine. Victoria found herself smiling. She sounds wonderful. She is. Smarter than me already, and she's only 8. Yesterday, she asked me why some people are mean to others for no reason. I didn't know how to answer that. The comment hung in the air between them, and Victoria realized he was thinking about what she had shared the night before. What did you tell her? That some people are hurting inside, and sometimes hurt people do hurtful things, but that doesn't make it okay, and it doesn't mean we should stop being kind. Marcus refilled her coffee cup. She said that made sense, then asked if we could make cookies for Mrs. Garcia because her husband died last month. Victoria felt tears prick her eyes. When was the last time she had done something kind for someone without expecting anything in return? Her charitable donations were tax deductions. Her gifts to employees were calculated to improve morale and productivity. Everything in her life had an angle, a purpose beyond simple human connection. She sounds like she has a good heart, Victoria said softly. She gets that from her mother. Sarah was the kindest person I ever knew. She volunteered at the animal shelter, made soup for sick neighbors, always saw the best in people. Marcus's voice grew quiet. Emma's got her mother's heart, and hopefully a little of my practical sense. What happened to her, if you don't mind me asking? Marcus was quiet for a moment, wiping down the already clean counter. Car accident 3 years ago. Drunk driver ran a red light. Sarah was coming home from a PTA meeting. His jaw tightened. Emma was only 5. She still asks sometimes when mommy's coming home. Victoria felt her heart break a little. Here was a man who had every reason to be bitter and angry, yet he had shown her nothing but kindness. I'm so sorry, Marcus. That must be incredibly difficult. Some days are harder than others, but Emma needs me to be strong, so I am. We take care of each other. He looked at Victoria directly. What about you? Family? Victoria laughed, but there was no humor in it. My parents are both gone. No siblings. No children. I was married briefly in my 20s, but he left when he realized being married to Sterling Industries wasn't what he signed up for. That must be lonely. The simple statement hit Victoria harder than any business competitor ever had. It is, she admitted. I used to think success would be enough, that building something meaningful would fill all the empty spaces. But some nights, I sit in my apartment looking out at the city, and I feel like I'm the only person alive. Marcus nodded with understanding. After Sarah died, I used to put Emma to bed and then sit in the kitchen with a beer listening to the silence. It was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. I'd think about all the conversations we'd never have, all the plans we'd made that would never happen. How did you get through it? Emma, mostly. She needed me to keep going, so I did. And slowly I realized that even though I lost Sarah, I still had love in my life. It looked different than I expected, but it was still there. Marcus smiled sadly. I learned that loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about feeling disconnected from the people around you. Victoria considered this. She was surrounded by people every day, but none of them really knew her. They knew her reputation, her bank account, her business acumen, but they didn't know that she still slept with a light on because she was afraid of the dark, or that she had never learned to cook because no one had ever taught her, or that she sometimes drove past elementary schools just to hear the sound of children laughing. I ordered the meatloaf, she said suddenly, making Marcus smile. Good choice. Emma would approve. As Victoria ate, they talked about small things. Marcus told her about Emma's latest school project about butterflies and how she had insisted they build a garden specifically to attract them. Victoria found herself sharing stories from her childhood, memories she hadn't thought about in years. Her father teaching her to read financial reports when she was 10, the way her mother used to hum while doing crossword puzzles. When closing time approached, Victoria felt that familiar reluctance to leave. The diner had become a sanctuary, a place where she could be simply Victoria instead of CEO Sterling. Marcus didn't look at her with the calculating expressions she was used to seeing. He didn't want anything from her except honest conversation. Same time tomorrow? Marcus asked as she gathered her coat, and Victoria realized he hoped she would return as much as she hoped to come back. Maybe, she said with a small smile, though they both knew she would be there. Emma Thompson sat at the kitchen table, carefully coloring a picture of a butterfly while Marcus made her lunch for school. She hummed a little song under her breath, the same melody her mother used to sing while braiding Emma's hair. Marcus paused in spreading peanut butter on bread, watching his daughter's serious concentration as she selected the perfect shade of purple for the butterfly's wings. Daddy, why do you smell like coffee all the time now? Emma asked without looking up from her coloring. Marcus chuckled. Because I work at a place that serves coffee, sweetheart. But you smell like different coffee. Not the bitter kind you make here, sweet coffee. Emma held up her picture for inspection. Mrs. Garcia says when people smell different, it means they're happy about something new. Sometimes Emma's observations caught Marcus off guard. At 8 years old, she noticed things that adults missed. What else does Mrs. Garcia say? That you've been humming when you come home at night. You haven't hummed since Mommy went to heaven. Emma's matter-of-fact tone made Marcus's chest tighten. Are you happy about something, Daddy? Marcus sat down beside his daughter, studying her artwork. The butterfly was beautiful, with carefully shaded wings and tiny details that showed her patience and care. I made a new friend, he said carefully. Someone who comes to the diner and talks with me. Is she pretty? Emma asked with 8-year-old directness. How do you know it's a she? Emma rolled her eyes in that way that reminded Marcus so much of Sarah. Because you're acting like Prince Eric when he meets Ariel, all dreamy and distracted. Marcus laughed despite himself. You watch too many Disney movies. Mrs. Garcia lets me watch them when you work late. She says every princess needs a prince and every prince needs a princess. Are you gonna be someone's prince, Daddy? The innocence in Emma's question made Marcus's heart ache. His daughter had been without a mother for 3 years, accepting their small family with the resilience that children possessed. But lately he had wondered if she felt the absence more than she let on. I don't know, Em. It's complicated when you're a grown-up. Everything's complicated when you're a grown-up, Emma agreed sagely. But maybe complicated is okay if it makes you hum again. That evening, Marcus found himself looking forward to his shift in a way he hadn't since he started working at Rosie's. Victoria had come in 3 nights in a row now, always ordering coffee and staying until closing time. Their conversations had evolved from polite exchanges to deeper discussions about life, loss, and the unexpected ways people found connection. Victoria arrived at 8 p.m. sharp, and Marcus realized she had been timing her visits to avoid the dinner rush. She nodded to him from across the restaurant, and he felt that familiar flutter in his chest that he hadn't experienced since his early days with Sarah. The usual? He asked as she settled into her regular booth. Coffee, yes, but maybe something different to eat tonight. What do you like here? Marcus considered the question seriously. The apple pie is good, but if you want my honest opinion, the grilled cheese and tomato soup is comfort food at its finest. Emma and I share it sometimes when she has a bad day. At school. Grilled cheese it is. As Marcus prepared her order, he watched Victoria through the kitchen window. She had started bringing a book with her, though she rarely read it. Tonight she was staring out the window at the street, and something about her expression made him think she was fighting some internal battle. When he brought her food, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Long day? He asked, sliding into the seat across from her. I had to fire 3 more people today, Victoria said quietly. Not for stealing this time, just budget cuts. 3 people with families who won't be able to pay their bills because I had to improve our profit margins. Marcus nodded, understanding the weight of making decisions that affected other people's lives. That must be hard. The worst part is how easy it's becoming. My father would have agonized over every layoff, but I'm learning to compartmentalize, to see people as numbers, on a spreadsheet instead of human beings with mortgages and children. Victoria took a sip of coffee, her hands slightly shaking. I'm becoming someone I don't recognize. Maybe that's a good thing, Marcus said quietly. Maybe it means you still have a conscience. Victoria looked at him with surprise. How is becoming cold and calculating a good thing? You're not cold. If you were, you wouldn't be sitting here feeling guilty about doing what you had to do. You wouldn't care about those 3 families. The fact that it bothers you means you're still human, underneath all that business armor. Tears gathered in Victoria's eyes, but she blinked them away. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had been born into a different family. If I could have been a teacher or a nurse or something that actually helps people instead of just making money. What's stopping you now? The question hung in the air between them. Victoria stared at Marcus as if he had suggested she could fly to the moon. I have responsibilities. Shareholders, employees, my father's legacy. Your father's dead, Victoria. And legacies don't keep you warm at night or hold your hand when you're scared. Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. Sarah used to tell me that life is too short to live it for other people's expectations. Easy for her to say. She wasn't responsible for hundreds of jobs and millions of dollars. No, but she was responsible for raising a daughter who would have to grow up without her mother. That's a pretty big responsibility, too. Marcus reached across the table and touched Victoria's hand briefly. I'm not saying you should quit tomorrow and become a kindergarten teacher. But maybe there's a way to run your business that doesn't require you to lose your soul. Victoria looked down at the spot where Marcus had touched her hand, feeling the warmth of human contact that had nothing to do with business networking or strategic advantage. How do you do it? Stay so optimistic after everything you've lost? I have Emma. She reminds me every day that there's still good in the world, that people can choose to be kind even when life is unfair. Marcus smiled. Yesterday she asked me if we could buy groceries for Mrs. Patterson down the hall because her husband lost his job. She wanted to use her allowance money. Did you let her? Of course. We went shopping together, and Emma picked out all Mrs. Patterson's favorite foods. When we delivered them, Mrs. Patterson cried and hugged Emma so tight I thought she might break her ribs. Marcus's expression grew thoughtful. Emma was so proud not because she got praised, but because she knew she had made someone's day a little easier. Victoria felt something shift inside her chest, like a door opening that had been locked for years. She sounds incredible. She is, and you know what? She's been asking about you. Victoria's eyebrows rose in surprise. About me? You told her about me? Marcus looked slightly embarrassed. I may have mentioned that I made a new friend. She's very curious about people. She asked if you like butterflies because she's planning to plant flowers that attract them, and she thinks everyone should appreciate butterflies. The image of a little girl wanting to share her love of butterflies with a stranger made Victoria's throat tight with emotion. I'd like to meet her sometime, she said impulsively, then immediately felt foolish. I mean, if that would be appropriate. I don't really know how to talk to children. She's just a little person with big thoughts. Treat her like you'd want to be treated and you'll do fine. Marcus studied Victoria's face. Are you serious about wanting to meet her? Victoria surprised herself by nodding. I think I am. It's been a long time since I've been around someone who sees the world with hope instead of cynicism. We usually come here for Sunday dinner. Emma orders pancakes and tells me about everything she learned at school that week. Marcus hesitated, then took a chance. You could join us if you want. The invitation was simple, but Victoria felt its significance in her bones. This wasn't a business dinner or a networking opportunity. This was Marcus offering to share the most precious part of his life with her. "I'd like that very much," she said softly. "Good. Emma will be excited. She's been worried that I'm getting lonely." Marcus smiled. "Apparently I hum when I'm happy, and I've been humming lately." Victoria felt heat rise in her cheeks. "Is that so?" "Kids notice everything." She also said I smell like sweet coffee, now instead of bitter coffee. I told her that's ridiculous, but between you and me, I think she might be onto something. As closing time approached, Victoria found herself reluctant to leave, as always. But tonight felt different. Tonight she had plans to look forward to, a reason to anticipate the weekend beyond catching up on paperwork and board reports. "Sunday at 6? Marcus asked as she gathered her things. "I'll be here." Victoria paused at the door. "Marcus, thank you for treating me like a person instead of a bank account." "Thank you for letting me," he replied, and something in his voice made Victoria think that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't the only one who had been lonely. Victoria Sterling stood in front of her walk-in closet Sunday evening, staring at rows of expensive business suits and designer dresses. Everything she owned screamed wealth and power, but nothing seemed appropriate for dinner with an 8-year-old girl and her father at a small-town diner. She had never been so nervous about an outfit in her entire life. Finally, she settled on dark jeans and a soft cashmere sweater, the most casual clothes she owned. Looking at herself in the mirror, she realized she couldn't remember the last time she had worn jeans anywhere. The woman staring back at her looked younger, softer somehow, more human. Her hands shook slightly as she applied minimal makeup. What if Emma didn't like her? What if she said something wrong? Victoria had negotiated million-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, but the thought of disappointing a child she had never met made her stomach flutter with anxiety. At Rosie's diner, Marcus was helping Emma color a new butterfly picture while they waited. Emma had insisted on wearing her favorite dress, the yellow one with tiny flowers that made her look like sunshine. She had also brought her collection of butterfly stickers to show Victoria, because, as she explained to her father, new friends need to know about important things, and butterflies are very important. "Is she really coming, Daddy?" Emma asked, for the third time, carefully coloring within the lines of a monarch butterfly's wing. "She said she would be here," Marcus assured his daughter, though he felt his own nervousness building. What if Victoria changed her mind? What if she realized how different their worlds were and decided this was a mistake? At exactly 6 o'clock, Victoria walked through the diner door. Emma looked up from her coloring and gasped, "Daddy, she's beautiful, like a princess but in regular clothes." Victoria heard the whispered comment and smiled, some of her nervousness melting away. She approached their table slowly, taking in the sight of Marcus sitting next to a little girl who looked exactly like him, but with longer hair and bright, curious eyes. "You must be Emma," Victoria said, extending her hand formally, then catching herself and crouching down to Emma's eye level instead. "I'm Victoria. Your daddy has told me so much about you." Emma beamed and immediately launched into conversation. "Are you the lady who makes my daddy hum? He says you're his friend and you drink lots of coffee. I like hot chocolate better than coffee. Do you want to see my butterflies?" Without waiting for an answer, Emma began showing Victoria her sticker collection, explaining the differences between monarchs and swallowtails with the serious expertise of a child who had found her passion. Victoria listened intently, asking genuine questions and expressing appropriate amazement at Emma's knowledge. Marcus watched in wonder as Victoria, the intimidating CEO who commanded boardrooms, sat patiently while his 8-year-old daughter told her everything she had ever learned about butterfly migration patterns. Victoria's entire demeanor had softened, and she seemed genuinely fascinated by Emma's enthusiasm. "Can I sit next to Victoria, Daddy?" Emma asked, already sliding out of the booth. "If that's okay with Victoria," Marcus said, shooting an apologetic, "Look at their guest." "I'd love that," Victoria said, scooting over to make room. Emma immediately snuggled up beside her, still chattering about butterflies. When the waitress came to take their order, Emma announced, "She'll have the chocolate chip pancakes just like me. Nobody can be sad when they're eating pancakes." Victoria looked at Marcus questioningly. He shrugged with amusement. Emma has strong opinions about food and emotions. I usually go with it. Pancakes sound perfect, Victoria agreed, and Emma clapped her hands with delight. Over dinner, Emma regaled Victoria with stories from school, details about her best friend Sophie, and her plans for the butterfly garden she wanted to plant. Victoria found herself relaxing completely, for the first time in years, drawn into Emma's innocent worldview where problems had simple solutions and kindness was the default response to everything. Victoria, do you have a little girl? Emma asked between bites of pancakes. No, sweetie, I don't have any children. Emma considered this seriously. That's sad. Children make everything more fun. You could borrow me sometimes if you want. I'm very good at borrowing. Victoria felt tears prick her eyes. That's very generous of you, Emma. Daddy says sharing makes the world better, and you look like you need more fun in your life. Your smile is pretty, but it seems new, like you don't use it very much. Marcus nearly choked on his coffee. Emma, we don't comment on people's smiles. But it's a good thing, Daddy. Everyone should smile more. Emma turned back to Victoria. Do you know any games? We could play games and that would make you smile more. Victoria thought about her empty apartment filled with expensive furniture and no toys, no games, no signs of joy or playfulness. I'm not very good at games, she admitted. That's okay, I can teach you. I know lots of games, card games and word games and imagination games where we pretend to be different people. Emma's eyes lit up. We could pretend you're a butterfly queen and I'm a butterfly princess and Daddy is a butterfly knight. I don't think I'd make a very good butterfly knight, Marcus said with a laugh. Everyone can be a good butterfly something if they try, Emma said with the confidence of childhood. She looked at Victoria seriously. Would you like to come see my butterfly garden? It's just baby plants right now, but Mrs. Garcia says they'll grow big if we're patient and water them every day. I'd love to see your garden, Victoria said, meaning it completely. After dinner, the three of them walked to Marcus's apartment building. It was a modest complex, older but well-maintained, with small balconies overlooking a courtyard where children's toys were scattered on the grass. Victoria felt a strange peace in this simple neighborhood, so different from her sterile luxury. High-rise Emma's garden consisted of several small pots on the apartment balcony, each containing tiny green sprouts. She explained her planting strategy with scientific precision, showing Victoria how she had researched which flowers butterflies liked best and arranged the pots to catch the optimal amount of sunlight. When they get bigger, butterflies will come and visit, Emma explained. And when they do, they'll be happy because we made a place just for them. Daddy says that's what love is, making places where someone can be happy. Victoria looked at Marcus over Emma's head, seeing the pride and tenderness in his expression as he watched his daughter. In that moment, she understood what Emma meant about making places for happiness. This simple apartment, with its second-hand furniture and child's artwork on the refrigerator, felt more like home than anywhere Victoria had ever lived. Emma, it's getting late. You need to brush your teeth and get ready for bed, Marcus said gently. But I want to talk to Victoria more. We haven't played any games yet. Victoria can come back another time if she wants to, Marcus said, looking at Victoria. Hopefully. I'd like that very much, Victoria said, and she meant it with every fiber of her being. Emma hugged Victoria goodbye, a fierce little girl hug that took Victoria by surprise with its intensity. I'm glad you're my daddy's friend, Emma whispered. He's been sad for a long time, but he smiles different when he talks about you. As Marcus walked Victoria to her car, they were both quiet, processing the evening's unexpected intimacy. She's incredible, Victoria said finally. I've never met anyone who sees the world so clearly. She likes you, Marcus said. That's not always a given with Emma. She's usually shy around new people. I like her too, more than I expected. Victoria hesitated, then took a chance. Marcus, I know we come from very different worlds, but spending time with you and Emma, it makes me remember what it feels like to be human, to care about something beyond profit margins and quarterly reports. Marcus stepped closer, and Victoria could smell his cologne mixed with the scent of coffee and something uniquely him. "What are you saying, Victoria?" "I'm saying I don't want this to end. Whatever this is between us, I want to see where it goes." Victoria looked up at him, vulnerability written across her face. "I know I'm not the obvious choice for someone like you. I work too much, I don't know how to cook, and I've never been around children. But Emma was right. I haven't been using my smile much lately, until I met you." Marcus cupped her face gently with his calloused hands. "Victoria, you're not a charity case, and this isn't about what makes sense on paper. You make me want to believe in possibilities again. Emma sees it. Mrs. Garcia sees it. Hell, even the other waitresses at the diner have noticed I'm different." "Different how?" "Hopeful," Marcus said simply. And then he kissed her, soft and sweet under the streetlight in the parking lot of his modest apartment complex. When they broke apart, Victoria felt like she was floating. "So what happens now?" she asked. "Now we take it one day at a time," Marcus said. "You keep coming to the diner, we keep talking, and maybe you help Emma with that butterfly garden." 3 weeks later, Victoria found herself doing something she never thought possible, leaving the office at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday. Her assistant looked shocked as Victoria packed up her briefcase and announced she had somewhere important to be. The truth was, Emma had a school play that evening, and Victoria had promised to be there. Over the past few weeks, Victoria's life had taken on a rhythm she never expected. Mornings still meant board meetings and conference calls, but evenings belonged to Marcus and Emma. She had started coming to the diner earlier during Emma's homework time, helping with math problems while Marcus worked. Emma had declared Victoria very smart, but terrible at explaining fractions, which somehow felt like the best compliment Victoria had ever received. The school auditorium was packed with parents, grandparents, and siblings, all clutching programs, and trying to spot their children among the crowd of nervous second graders dressed as various vegetables. Victoria felt out of place in her business suit among the casual family crowd, but Marcus had saved her a seat in the third row. "You made it," he said, relief evident in his voice. "Emma was worried you might have to work late." "I promised her I'd be here," Victoria said simply. The truth was more complicated. She had rescheduled 2 important meetings and delegated a crucial presentation to her vice president. A month ago, the idea of putting a child's school play above business commitments would have been unthinkable. When Emma appeared on stage as a singing carrot, complete with an orange costume that Mrs. Garcia had helped sew, Victoria felt her chest swell with an unfamiliar emotion, pride, she realized. She was proud of this little girl who wasn't even hers, proud of her confidence and joy as she belted out a song about healthy eating. After the play, Emma rushed over to them, her carrot costume slightly askew, and her face glowing with excitement. "Did you see me? I remembered all my words and I didn't trip on my costume." "You were magnificent," Victoria said, kneeling down to Emma's level. "The best carrot I've ever seen." Emma giggled and threw her arms around Victoria's neck. "I'm so happy you came. Sophie's mom said you must be very important because you're wearing such fancy clothes to a school play." Victoria glanced down at her designer suit and suddenly felt overdressed. "Next time I'll wear jeans," she promised. "Good. Jeans are more fun for celebrating. Can we get ice cream to celebrate my play?" Marcus looked at Victoria questioningly. Only if Victoria doesn't have to get back to work. Victoria thought about the reports waiting on her desk, the emails piling up in her inbox, the late-night conference call with investors in Tokyo. Then she looked at Emma's hopeful face and Marcus's warm eyes. "Ice cream sounds perfect at the ice cream parlor." Emma chattered excitedly about the play while managing to get more chocolate sauce on her shirt than in her mouth. Victoria watched Marcus patiently help Emma clean up, his gentle patience with his daughter never wavering. She thought about her own childhood, spent mostly with nannies while her parents worked, eating expensive meals in silence. "Victoria, will you help me practice for my spelling test tomorrow?" Emma asked, chocolate smeared across her chin. "If your dad doesn't mind me staying a little longer," Victoria replied, checking her watch. The Tokyo call would start in 2 hours. "Mind?" I never mind when you stay longer, Marcus said quietly, and something in his tone made Victoria's heart skip. Back at their apartment, Victoria found herself sitting on the living room floor with Emma going through spelling words while Marcus did dishes in the kitchen. Emma's homework was spread across the coffee table, along with her butterfly books and a half-finished art project involving extensive glitter use. "Victoria, can I ask you something?" Emma said, looking up from her spelling list. "Of course, sweetheart." "Do you like my daddy?" The directness of the question caught Victoria off guard. "Yes, Emma. I like your daddy very much." Emma nodded seriously. "Good. Because he likes you too. He sings in the shower now, and he didn't do that before you came to the diner, and sometimes he gets this dreamy look when he's thinking about something." Victoria felt heat rise in her cheeks. "How do you know he's thinking about me?" "Because he gets the same look when he's thinking about Mommy. But different. Happy, sad, instead of just sad." Emma moved closer to Victoria on the carpet. "Are you going to marry my daddy?" Victoria nearly choked. "Emma, that's not really something I can answer right now." "Why not? Don't you love him?" The innocent question hit Victoria like a physical blow. Did she love Marcus? The thought had been creeping into her consciousness for days, but she had been too afraid to examine it closely. Love meant vulnerability, risk, the possibility of devastating loss. Her marriage had failed because she couldn't balance love with ambition. What made her think this time would be different? "Love is complicated, Emma," Victoria said carefully. "Adults always say that, but I don't think it is. Love is when you want to take care of someone and make them happy, and when they're sad, you're sad too." Emma tilted her head, studying Victoria's face. "That's how I love Daddy, and how he loved Mommy, and how Mrs. Garcia loves her cat, Mr. Whiskers." Victoria stared at this wise 8-year-old, recognizing truth in her simple definition. Did she want to take care of Marcus? Yes. Did his happiness matter to her? Absolutely. When she saw the exhaustion in his eyes after a double shift, did it make her sad? Without question. "Maybe you're right," Victoria said softly. "Maybe love isn't as complicated as adults make it." Emma beamed. "I knew you were smart. Daddy's going to be so happy when you tell him you love him." "Whoa there, little matchmaker," Marcus said from the doorway, having overheard the end of their conversation. Let's not put Victoria on the spot. But Victoria was looking at Marcus with new clarity. This man who worked 2 jobs to provide for his daughter, who treated her with kindness despite coming from a completely different world, who made her laugh and think and feel things she had thought were lost forever. When had she stopped being afraid of loving him? "Actually," Victoria said, standing up and facing Marcus directly, "maybe it's time I was honest about some things." Marcus's expression grew serious. "Victoria, I love you," she said simply, the words feeling both terrifying and liberating. "I love how you make Emma laugh, how you remember the way I like my coffee, how you listen to my problems without trying to fix them. I love that you see me as Victoria, not as Sterling Industries." Emma clapped her hands together. "I knew it. I told Sophie that grown-ups were weird about feelings, but that you and Daddy were going to figure it out." Marcus crossed the room in 3 quick steps, cupping Victoria's face in his hands. "I love you too," he said. "I have for weeks, but I was afraid to say it. Afraid you'd realize what a mess my life is and run back to your perfect world." "My world isn't perfect," Victoria said, tears threatening. "It's cold and empty and full of people who only care about what I can do for them. This messy, complicated, wonderful life you've built with Emma, this is perfect." Marcus kissed her then, soft and deep and full of promise, while Emma made exaggerated, kissing noises in the background. When they broke apart, Victoria was crying, but they were happy tears. "So what happens now?" Marcus asked, echoing Victoria's question from weeks ago. Victoria looked around the small apartment that had become more of a home to her than her luxury penthouse. She thought about the butterfly garden growing on the balcony, about Emma's homework spread across the coffee table, about the family photos on the refrigerator that she wanted to be part of. Now we figure out how to build a life together, she said. All three of us. Emma launched herself at both of them, wrapping her small arms around their waists. This is the best day ever. Can Victoria move in with us? Can we get a bigger place? For the butterfly garden? Can we have pancakes for breakfast every day? Marcus and Victoria looked at each other over Emma's head, both laughing at the 8-year-old's immediate leap to practical considerations. We'll figure it out, Marcus promised, one step at a time. Victoria's phone buzzed with a reminder about the Tokyo conference call. For a split second, she felt the old panic, the ingrained response to put work first. Then she looked at Marcus and Emma, at this family that had welcomed her so completely and made a decision that would have shocked her old self. She turned off the phone. "The world can wait," she said, settling back down on the floor with Emma's spelling words. Right, now I'm exactly where I need to be. 6 months later, Victoria stood in the kitchen of their new home attempting to flip pancakes while Emma gave her detailed instructions from her perch on the counter. The house was a compromise between worlds, spacious enough for Victoria's need for a home office, but warm and welcoming in a way her old penthouse never was. Most importantly, it had a large backyard where Emma's butterfly garden was flourishing. "No, Victoria. You have to wait for the bubbles to pop before you flip it," Emma instructed with the patience of a seasoned teacher. "Daddy makes perfect pancakes because he waits for the bubbles." "Your daddy has had more practice than me," Victoria laughed, successfully flipping a pancake that only looked slightly lopsided. "Remember, 6 months ago I didn't even know how to make toast." Emma giggled. "You're getting better, though. Last week you only burned the eggs a little bit." Marcus appeared, in the doorway, already dressed for his new job as assistant manager at a popular downtown restaurant. Victoria had initially worried that her help in getting him the position might hurt his pride, but Marcus had surprised her by being grateful for the opportunity to use his culinary skills in a better environment. "How are my girls doing?" he asked, kissing Victoria's cheek and ruffling Emma's hair. "Victoria made pancakes that look like actual circles today," Emma announced proudly. "And they smell right, not like the burned ones from last Tuesday." "I'm very proud of her progress," Marcus said solemnly, then whispered in Victoria's ear. "They smell delicious." Victoria had made more changes in the past 6 months than in the previous decade of her life. She had promoted her vice president to handle day-to-day operations while she focused on long-term strategy and company culture. Sterling Industries was thriving under a more collaborative leadership style, and Victoria found that stepping back from micromanagement actually improved productivity. More importantly, she had learned to leave the office at reasonable hours. She attended Emma's soccer games, helped with school projects, and had even volunteered to chaperone a class field trip to the Science Museum. The other parents had initially been intimidated by the presence of a CEO, but Emma's enthusiastic introductions of "My Victoria" had quickly put everyone at ease. "Are you nervous about today?" Marcus asked quietly, while Emma was distracted by arranging her pancakes in the shape of a butterfly. Today was the day Victoria planned to ask Emma how she would feel about Victoria adopting her. It had been Marcus's suggestion, born from practical considerations about school pickups and medical decisions, but it had grown into something much deeper for Victoria. She wanted to be Emma's mother legally and officially, not just in her heart. Terrified, Victoria admitted. "What if she doesn't want me to be her mom? What if she feels like I'm trying to replace Sarah?" Marcus pulled Victoria into his arms, steadying her with his calm presence. "Emma loves you. She has from the beginning, and she's too smart to think anyone could replace her mother. She understands that love doesn't have limits." After breakfast, while Marcus got ready for work, Victoria and Emma settled in the living room with Emma's latest art project, a detailed drawing of their butterfly garden with all the different species she hoped to attract. Emma worked with focused concentration while Victoria pretended to read a business magazine, both of them enjoying their comfortable Sunday morning routine. "Emma," Victoria said carefully, "can I talk to you about something important?" Emma looked up from her drawing, immediately sensing the serious tone. "Are you and Daddy okay? You're not fighting, are you?" "No, sweetheart, we're not fighting. We're very happy, but I wanted to ask you about something and I want you to be completely honest with me, okay?" Emma nodded solemnly. Victoria took a deep breath. How would you feel if I became your mom? Not just your dad's girlfriend who lives with you, but actually your mom, legally and everything? Emma stared at Victoria for a long moment, processing the question. Then, unexpectedly, tears filled her eyes. You want to be my real mom? Only, if you want me to be, Victoria said quickly. You already had a wonderful mom who loved you very much, and I would never try to replace her or make you forget her. But I love you so much, Emma, and I want to take care of you and be part of your family officially. Emma was quiet for several minutes, and Victoria's heart pounded with anxiety. Maybe she had pushed too hard, too fast. Maybe Emma wasn't ready for this kind of change. Finally, Emma spoke in a small voice. I dream about Mommy sometimes. She tells me she's happy and that she wants Daddy to be happy too. Last week I dreamed that she met you, and she said you have a good heart and that you love us the right way. Tears sprang to Victoria's eyes. What do you think that means? I think it means Mommy would like you to be my mom too. Not instead of her, but with her, in a different way. Emma scooted closer to Victoria on the couch. Can I still talk about Mommy and miss her sometimes? Of course, sweetheart. Your first mom will always be part of you, and that's beautiful. I would never want you to stop loving her or talking about her. Emma threw her arms around Victoria's neck. Then yes, I want you to be my mom. Can we tell Daddy? Can we have a party? Can I call you Mom now? Victoria held Emma tight, overwhelmed with emotion. You can call me whatever feels right to you. And yes, we can definitely tell Daddy. Marcus appeared in the doorway, already running late for work but drawn by the sound of Emma's excited chatter. When he saw Victoria and Emma hugging and crying happy tears, he understood immediately what had happened. I take it the conversation went well? He asked with a huge grin. Victoria's going to be my real mom, Emma announced, bouncing on the couch. We're going to be a real family with papers and everything. Marcus sat down beside them, wrapping both his girls in his arms. We've been a real family for a while now, he said. The papers just make it official. Later that evening, after Emma had called everyone she knew to share the news and had fallen asleep exhausted from excitement, Victoria and Marcus sat on their back porch watching the sunset. Emma's butterfly garden was in full bloom, attracting monarchs and swallowtails just as she had planned. Are you sure about this? Marcus asked quietly. Adoption is permanent. No backing out when Emma becomes a teenager and decides she hates us both. Victoria laughed. I'm sure. For the first time in my life, I'm completely sure about something that has nothing to do with business plans or profit margins. She leaned against Marcus's shoulder. I never thought I wanted children. I thought I was too selfish, too career-focused. But Emma has taught me that love makes you bigger, not smaller. She's taught me a few things too, Marcus said. Like how to trust, again. How to believe that good things can happen even after you think your story is over. As if summoned by their conversation, a monarch butterfly landed on the porch railing near them, its orange wings catching the last rays of sunlight. They watched in comfortable silence as it rested there, a living symbol of transformation and new beginnings. Do you think she knows? Victoria asked softly, thinking of Sarah. I think she knows, Marcus replied, and I think she's happy that Emma has someone who loves her the way you do. The butterfly took flight, dancing through the garden Emma had so carefully planned, before disappearing into the gathering dusk. Victoria thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment, the loneliness that had driven her to a small diner, the kindness of a stranger who became her anchor, the love of a child who taught her what family really meant. Tomorrow, there would be paperwork to file, lawyers to meet with, and the long process of making their family official in the eyes of the law. But tonight, sitting on the porch of their home while their daughter slept peacefully inside, Victoria knew she had found something more valuable than any business empire. She had found her place in the world, not as a powerful CEO or a successful entrepreneur, but as a mother, a partner, and a person who had learned that the best things in life couldn't be planned or purchased. They could only be received with an open heart. Inside the house, Emma's voice called out sleepily, "Mom? Daddy? Can someone get me a glass of water?" Victoria's heart swelled at the word mom, still new and precious. She squeezed Marcus's hand and stood up. "I'll get it," she said, and went inside to take care of her daughter.